Good early afternoon from the National Weather Service office in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I'm meteorologist Donald Jones, here to discuss the latest on what is now Potential Tropical Cyclone 1. That's a mouthful. Unfortunately, we get the distinction of being the first tropical issue of the year, if you will. And obviously it's already underway. If you stepped outside this morning, you've no doubt noticed that it is a little wet out there. In fact, we have several flash flood warnings ongoing already across the region. This is not entirely associated with the PTC1. This is more associated with a stationary frontal boundary that's kind of been draped across the area for the last day and a half or so. But some of the moisture from PTC1 is actually already filtering into that boundary, and they're kind of, I don't want to say merging, but they're interacting with one another, and that's part of what's causing all the rain that we've seen here this morning. We've had several flash flood warnings across parts of central Louisiana. I'll show you that here in just a second, right before we jump into the latest about PTC1. Bottom line up front, though, this is not expected to be a big concern as far as wind. We're not expecting this to turn into a hurricane. We're not expecting this to turn into certainly not a major hurricane. If it becomes anything, maybe a minimal tropical storm, that would be 40-mile-an-hour winds right along the coast. That would not even get that far inland. So just kind of bear that in mind. This is not going to be a wind threat. This is going to be a heavy rain and a flash flood threat, and that's what we're really going to be hitting on here with this briefing. As always, this is a live interactive briefing, so if you have any questions as we go through our briefing, feel free to post them in our comments section. I see a few of you have already found them. Chad's watching from Hammond, which is not technically our area, but that's okay. And we'll be happy to answer them just as soon as we wrap up our briefing here. I said I wanted to start off with showing the radar. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Here we go. And so you can see the green boxes there. That is the flood warnings, or are the flood warnings that are ongoing across the area. You can see a large swath of rain continuing across parts of central Louisiana, essentially from DeRidder east across northern Allen, Evangeline, St. Landry, Avoyelles, and the southern half of Rapides Parish. The Alexandria area just barely kind of clips one of those flood warnings, but you can see pretty much an entire swath there of flood warnings ongoing. We've received quite a few reports of street flooding in this area. No reports of any water in homes yet, which is certainly some good news. But this is going to continue pretty much through the rest of the day. You can see flash flood warning also for parts of southeast Texas and Hardin County, southern Tyler County, and southern Jasper County as well. So you can kind of see where the line has come up. You actually see a new flood warning box there just issued. That's going to be northern Beauregard and southern Vernon Parish. So you kind of see where the line of rain has developed, and I don't expect this is going to move a whole lot through the afternoon. So expect even more rain. If you've seen a lot already this morning, you're likely to see a lot more. Fortunately, here in Lake Charles, we haven't seen a whole lot. There's been a few on and off light showers, but most of the activity has been to the north, at least for now. Again, this is mainly associated with a kind of a quasi-stationary or semi-stationary frontal boundary. It's a frontal boundary in name only. It doesn't actually have any colder weather with it. But that's what's causing this today. Now, again, the moisture from Potential Tropical Cyclone 1 is kind of adding to this and making more heavier rainfall. But the Potential Tropical Cyclone itself is actually located way down near the center is down near the Mexico-Texas border. So it's going to eventually reemerge over the western Gulf. That's when it's going to have the potential to maybe intensify into a depression, maybe a low-end tropical storm. And then we'll be looking at landfall again somewhere along the upper Texas coast. Maybe, I think right now it's right around Sabine Pass. I'll show you here in just a second. But that's kind of what we're looking at as far as that, and that's going to bring even more rain tomorrow and into Thursday. So let's go ahead and jump into it here. A tropical storm watch has been issued. You may have seen that already, and this is just for the coastal parishes and counties. So it's going to be Jefferson County, Cameron Parish, Vermilion, Iberia, St. Martin, St. Mary, and the coastal waters south of there. So that tropical storm watch does not extend inland, so it does not include Lake Charles. It does not, I think it does technically actually include Beaumont, just because we have to do the lower half of the county. But you're unlikely to see tropical storm force winds in Beaumont. It does not include any of the cities along the I-10 corridor. It does not include Lafayette. It does not include New Iberia. It's just for right along the coastline. So kind of keep that in mind. And again, this is just a watch at this point, which means it's not necessarily going to happen, just that it's a possibility. We are still looking at very significant rainfall totals. You can see the rainfall total forecast here for the next several days. Now, this is mainly going to be today through Thursday night as far as the tropical related rain. As we get into Friday and the weekend, we're still going to have showers and thunderstorms around, but they're going to be not necessarily directly related to the tropical system. More just going to be kind of those summertime thunderstorms. Regardless, we're looking at a large swath of 6 to 8 inches. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see some 10 plus inches across the area. This has actually come down a little bit from this time yesterday when we were talking more like 15 to 20. I'm not ruling out the possibility that a couple of areas do wind up seeing 15 plus, but I think the majority of the region, 6 to 8 inches is what we're anticipating. And it's kind of ironic that we've got the lower totals up here across Tyler and Jasper counties where we already have flash flood warnings ongoing, but this is based on kind of a conglomeration of the computer models. This is the consensus as far as the rainfall totals. So again, like we talk about anytime we're talking about specific rainfall amounts, don't look at exactly how much you're expected in this area. The idea is to look at the trends, and the general trends are the highest rainfall totals are expected to be kind of along the I-10 corridor, with some lower amounts as you get a little bit further inland, especially up across North Louisiana. This is the first official track for Potential Tropical Cyclone 1. You can see, again, it's centered somewhere across South Texas right now. It is inland, so it's not going to be doing any kind of intensification this afternoon, certainly. It's going to have to get back out over open water before it does so, and that's not going to happen until sometime late tonight or possibly early tomorrow morning. At that point, it's going to kind of skirt the coast here. It's not going to get very far offshore. We're looking at maybe about 18 to 24 hours out over the waters, and it's not going to get very far. We're talking maybe 20, 30, 40 miles offshore. So it's not going to get very far. That's also going to help in kind of hinder it from really getting well organized quickly, because it's still going to be interacting with a lot of land. So again, about maybe 18 to 24 hours over the coastal waters, and then we're going to be looking at a landfall, quote unquote, because it's not going to be a well-defined circulation. You may be able to pick it out on satellite or radar, but it's not going to be an eye. It's not going to be a closed circulation or really well-defined closed circulation. There will be bands kind of extending away from that center, but the landfall is expected somewhere around Sabine Pass. Looks like sometime tomorrow evening. But keep in mind that the strongest winds, the heaviest rains, the potential for tornadoes, those are not necessarily going to be at the point of landfall. They're going to be displaced in some of those bands as they kind of roll inland. So the strongest winds maybe 50, 100 miles further to the east across parts of Acadiana. Same thing with the rainfall. It's not going to necessarily be confined to right around that center of circulation. So the landfall in this context is really not the most important thing. So it's very important to not focus on exactly where that landfall is going to be. And the worst conditions are not necessarily going to be where that landfall is going to be. So kind of keep that in mind as we go through this. Again, we do have that tropical storm watch in effect. Let me go ahead and make this full screen for you. Again, it's just for the, well, I thought I could make it full screen for you. Are we not going to do it this way? Let me check here, see if I can. It's just, it's on the wrong screen. Okay. Not a problem. Not a problem. We'll do it this way. You'll just have to look behind me here. But you can see the tropical storm watch is only for the coastal parishes and counties and the coastal waters offshore. So this is not going to include Lake Charles. Again, I told you it's going to be right. It's basically right at Beaumont, because we have to, the way we delineate it, it's the southern part of Jefferson County, which goes right up to Beaumont. So it's not going to include Lafayette. This is going to be down towards Morgan City, Intracoastal City, those areas right along the coast and offshore. We're not expecting tropical storm force winds to get very far inland, so keep that in mind. If they develop at all, there's still a reasonable possibility that we don't get tropical storm force winds anywhere. If they do, they're going to be confined to right along the immediate coastline. The bigger threat, the biggest threat by far, is going to be the potential for flash flooding. We do still have a flood watch in effect. It's going to be in effect all day today, all day tomorrow, all day Thursday, and it's going to go into Friday now. This one here is showing through 7 a.m. Thursday, but we've actually, just before I came on here, We were coordinating to extend this out through at least Friday morning, I think. So we're looking at another 3 days potentially of significant rainfall, and we've already seen, we do have flash flooding ongoing as we speak. So that's going to get gradually worse as we go out in time here over the next couple of days. The take-home message is that is the most important issue. The flooding is going to be the biggest risk with this system. Now, if we do get minimal tropical storm force winds, or even if we don't, even if this is just something like a depression, we are going to be looking at some low-end storm surge. Again, storm surge is not going to be, it's more like coastal flooding. In fact, that's what we have in effect as the coastal flood warning. But we're looking at anywhere between about 2 to 4 feet of storm surge moving in. This is going to cover the entire region that we cover. So southeast Texas, southwest Louisiana, all the way down towards Morgan City. In the lakes and bays, so Sabine Lake, Calcasieu Lake, we're looking at 1 to 3. So if you live right along the coastline, right around those lakes or right around Vermilion Bay, you are going to be looking at some surge, because the winds might not be strong, but they're going to be pretty persistent out of the south. So we're going to be looking at 25, 30, maybe 35 mile an hour winds pretty consistently for about 18 to 24 hours, and that's going to help pile up that water along the coastline. So we are expecting some coastal flooding to occur. We do have a coastal flood warning now in effect. This goes until 10 a.m. Thursday morning. This is going to peak out during the high tide periods, and we'll look at that here in just a second. And I want to say that's going to be sometime Wednesday, but this goes until 10 a.m. Thursday morning. I'll talk about the exact timing of it here in just a moment. As with all landfalling tropical cyclones or even potential tropical cyclones, there is a low-end chance for tornadoes, just because the spin of a tropical cyclone kind of sometimes will give that spin to a quick spin-up tornado. So there is going to be a low-end risk of tornadoes. It's mainly going to be along and east of that center of circulation and where that landfall is. Although, tornadoes on the west side of storms are not unheard of, but the vast majority of them are going to be the east. So we do have a marginal risk for severe weather from the Storm Prediction Center today for the possibility of a quick spin-up tornado. We haven't seen any of those yet, but it could happen anytime today. And then going through the next few days, you can see we do still have a marginal risk across essentially basically either side of the I-10 corridor and south to the coast for tomorrow. And then Thursday, pretty much all of Louisiana is going to be at a marginal risk for the possibility of a quick spin-up tornado. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean, obviously, that all of Louisiana is going to see a tornado, but where we get some of those bands, tornadoes will form sometimes within those bands, and they tend to move very quickly, and they don't last very long. They're not like supercell tornadoes that'll drop down on the ground and they'll move a long way. These are very quick. Sometimes they're on the ground for a minute or less. And they're very difficult to see on radar too. So in some instances, there's no way that we can put out a tornado warning for them. In some cases, we can see it, but oftentimes we can't, just because it's the speed of the winds in the tornado are often mixed in with the speed of the tropical cyclone itself. Again, as far as the severe weather type, the only real issue is going to be the potential for tornadoes. We're not looking at any kind of large hail. We're not expecting damaging straight line winds, because we're not expecting the straight line winds to be very strong. Again, we're talking tropical depression, maybe minimal tropical storm at the most. So obviously it's going to rain. We've got very high rain chances all the way through Thursday, and then still pretty high Friday into Saturday. We're looking at about a 50 to 60% chance. This is going to be for residual moisture behind the departing tropical cyclone, and then kind of getting a little bit back towards that routine kind of afternoon thunderstorm type forecast. But at least today, tomorrow, Thursday, into even Thursday evening, we're going to be looking at very high rain chances, obviously, with that landfalling tropical system. These are our forecast rainfall amounts, and then these are our potential worst case scenario. So on the left here, this is what we're expecting. This is the graphic I showed you at the top of the broadcast here. And then on the right here is our potential worst case scenario. So what we do to get that is we take 90% of the computer models that we look at, and the worst of those 90% becomes this reasonable worst case scenario. Now what that means is there's still a 10% chance that we could see numbers higher than this. So this is not the absolute highest numbers we can get, but this is what we call our reasonable worst case scenario. So looking at 8 to 10 inches, possibly a few spots of 10 to 15 inches in a few isolated locations. And again, just like we talked about earlier, I don't want you to focus on exactly these values exactly where you are. So for example, Lake Charles, 6 to 8 inches, that may be displaced. We're not good enough to say exactly where a specific spot, exactly how much rainfall is going to occur in those locations. So just kind of keep that in mind. This is more for general understanding rather than getting specific about exactly how much you're going to get in your specific location. All right, so obviously we've harped on this. I'm going to harp on it a little bit more. The flood risk is going to continue. This is the Weather Prediction Center's excessive rainfall outlook. So you can see the areas highlighted in red here. That's a moderate risk for excessive rainfall, which means there's roughly about a 30 to 50% chance of seeing flooding within 25 miles of a location in these areas. So you can see pretty much all of southeast Texas and southwest Louisiana in that moderate risk today, and we've got all of those flash flood warnings out right now. So that is largely verified. Tomorrow, it's going to be very similar, although the risk is going to be, the highest risk is going to be a little bit closer to the coastline, obviously with the potential tropical cyclone approaching the Gulf Coast, the northern Gulf Coast. We are going to be looking at the higher risk a little bit closer to the coastline, but there is still a slight risk. That's a 15 to 30% chance of seeing flash flooding across parts of central Louisiana, southeast Louisiana as well. And then as we get into Thursday, that risk gets displaced. The highest risk gets displaced kind of off to the northeast because that center is going to be making landfall and then moving inland at that point. So the highest risk is going to be central Louisiana, parts of southern Mississippi, but we're still in that slight risk, that 15 to 30% chance across southeast Texas and coastal parts of southern Louisiana. So the flood risk, bottom line, is going to continue at least through Thursday, if not later in the week. We are actually still have a risk Friday into the weekend. You can see the slight risk continues Friday across central Louisiana, and then Saturday we're in that marginal risk, which is 5%, I believe, or less of seeing flash flooding. So while the overall risk is going to decrease as we get later into the week and into the weekend, it is not zero. So we could see flash flooding continuing as late as Friday into Saturday. I should have kind of rearrange these. We're jumping from topic to topic a little bit here, but I want to go back to the coastal flooding. We were talking about timing. We're looking at the highest during the high tide period along with that surge moving in, and that's going to be, it looks like sometime Wednesday morning. You can see the highest here during the day, roughly, this one's 7 a.m. So roughly about 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Wednesday. So it's about a 12-hour period there where we could potentially see coastal flooding. And that's going to be pretty much the case across the entire region. I've got each one here. This is Calcasieu Pass, but the timing is roughly the same. It's about an hour or two earlier. But essentially, we're looking at pretty much all day Wednesday for that potential for coastal flooding. This is Eugene Island. Same thing. Again, it's displaced by about a couple of hours, so about 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. But you can call it pretty much just about all day Wednesday. We're going to be looking at the potential for that coastal flooding. Finally, taking a look at our 5-day forecast here, you can see we're looking at very high rain chances, obviously, through pretty much the whole week. It's going to come down a little bit this weekend. So Father's Day weekend is going to be a little bit more hit and miss showers and thunderstorms. So it's not going to be a complete rain out, but there is going to be some showers and thunderstorms around. The temperatures are going to be on the lower side, relatively speaking, for this time of year. We're going to be in the mid-80s with a lot of rain around, but then climbing back into the lower 90s by this weekend as that rain gets out of here. So that's what we have here this afternoon from the National Weather Service. If you have a question, I'll be happy to answer it here over the next little while. I'm going to go ahead and throw the potential tropical cyclone back up there, and bear with me just a moment while I read through the questions and comments to find said questions. Chad says, I think Chad's the one that talked to me right at the top. I'm in Hammond, but we have a funeral for your mother Saturday. I'm sorry for your loss of your mother. Saturday in Hammond, do you think we'll have problems in your area flooding? The overall risk in the Hammond area is going to be lower than over here in southwest Louisiana. Let me see. I don't know if my graphic's going to go all the way over that way. I don't have the actual rainfall totals, but you can kind of get an idea here. Your highest risk day is going to be Thursday, and then as we get into the weekend, we're just looking at a marginal risk by Saturday. So there's going to be some showers and thunderstorms around. The risk of flooding, though, is going to be pretty low. Okay. Alexis says, I'll take this over a strong hurricane. Certainly, yeah. I'll take it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, this is not a risk. Because again, the flooding, we've had a lot of examples of weak tropical systems producing copious amounts of rainfall and causing a lot of property damage and even killing people. So this is still a risky situation to be in from a weather perspective. So just because we're not having the strong winds doesn't mean that there's not still a risk of or a danger to life and property, as we call it. Leslie says, with all the dead trees falling, look out for power outages. Yeah, that's another thing. When we do get significant amounts of flooding, that tends to loosen up the soil. So if you do have a dead or dying tree that's root system is not very strong, those can tip over. So sporadic power outages are certainly not out of the realm of possibility. Dane asks, will Buna, Texas get any bad weather? You're going to get rain and flooding. You're not going to get wind. You're probably not going to get tornadoes. You're certainly not going to get storm surge. But rain and flooding is going to be your biggest issue. Fran asks, why is it called a cyclone? It's called the reason we call it a potential tropical cyclone right now is because it's not actually a cyclone at the moment. But there is obviously the potential for it to become some kind of cyclone. We use the term cyclone because we don't know necessarily if it's going to be a depression. We don't know if it's going to be a tropical storm. We don't know if it's going to be a hurricane. We're pretty sure it's not going to be a hurricane in this case. But because we don't know necessarily what specific type of cyclone it's going to be, we just use the generic term cyclone. Kelsey asks, is there a chance the tropical cyclone moves more inland, as in Orange County, having any effects from this? Well, I mean, it is going to move inland, and Orange County is certainly going to have some effects from this. You can see the landfall is expected right at Sabine Pass, which is essentially the center may move directly through Orange County. That's certainly a very likely scenario. But it's important not to focus on the center because the strongest impacts or the most significant impacts are not necessarily going to be where the center of circulation is in this storm. This is not a well-organized hurricane that's going to have an eye or anything like that. It's just going to be bands of rain, effectively. And so when the center may move right through Orange County, the bands themselves may be displaced across Louisiana. So just because the center of circulation moves directly across you or very near you does not necessarily mean you're going to see the worst conditions in this particular scenario. Robert says, we've already got 6 inches in Fred. I certainly believe that. We've gotten a lot of rain up that way and over and across into central Louisiana too. There's a lot of flooding ongoing over that way. Kim asks, is there a certain of flooding like with Harvey and Orange County? I don't know that this is necessarily going to be like Harvey. Harvey was obviously a Category 4 at landfall. This is not going to be even a hurricane. This is barely going to be a tropical storm, if anything, at landfall. And the difference is, unlike Harvey, which kind of sat over the same area for like 3 days, this one is not going to sit. It's not going to be moving particularly fast, but it is going to be moving. It's not going to stall over the same area for a long period of time. So 10 plus inches, certainly a possibility. 40, 50, 60 like we saw in Harvey, no, we don't expect that. Candy asks, what time should we expect it to start today in Sulphur? Unfortunately, I can't tell you exactly when the rain is going to start because it, you can see kind of how it's delineated right now. The vast majority of the rain is to the north, up towards the DeRidder area, Allen Parish, Evangeline Parish, Vernon, Rapides, of Oils, those areas. So, the Sulphur Lake Charles area so far has been kind of spared the worst of this. Now, this band could kind of sink to the south a little bit at just about any time. So I do expect we're going to see some later this afternoon into this evening, but I can't tell you exactly when that's going to occur. If you're wondering what those little people that kind of look like bathrooms are, those are reports of flooding. That's what we're looking at there. Mike asked, should he cancel his tea time for tomorrow? Well, it depends where you're at, but if you're anywhere in southeast Texas or southwest Louisiana, I'd say you are going to get wet. Brooklyn asks, is it possible that the watches and warnings go more inland to the Alexandria area? It's possible, but I don't think it's likely. And the reason for that is this is going to be a very weak system. So even if it becomes a minimal tropical storm, those tropical storm force winds are not going to get very far inland, because once it makes landfall, it's going to basically decrease in intensity again, as all landfalling hurricanes or tropical systems do. So let's say it became a minimal tropical storm with winds of 40 miles an hour. Those 40-mile-an-hour winds are going to be right at the coast. As those winds begin to work inland, they're going to decrease. So you no longer have tropical storm conditions once you start to get inland. So I don't expect we're going to have to issue watches or warnings, tropical storm watches or warnings as far inland as Alexandria. I don't even expect we're going to have to issue them as far north as Lake Charles. That's a possibility, but it's much lower further north across central Louisiana up towards Alexandria. Sherry says, so no hurricanes at this time, or so no hurricanes hurricanes. I heard the hurricanes. Yeah, no hurricanes this time because we don't have a hurricane. Or maybe we'll have if it's a tropical storm, maybe we'll do cupcakes because it's tiny. But nope, no full-fledged hurricanes this time. Francis wants to know, when is our next briefing? I am going to try to do another one of these tomorrow. It's been very busy here, unfortunately. That's why I kind of had to move this briefing down an hour, because I had to get all of this, the tropical storm watch and more and all of that stuff put together. So I'm going to try to do one tomorrow. We'll plan to do another one 11 a.m. or noon. I'll put out the schedule once I know it. If there is a significant change in the forecast tracker intensity, I will provide another update this afternoon. I don't expect that there will be, but if there is a significant change, we'll provide another update at this time. But at the latest, we'll try to do another one tomorrow. But I'll put that out on our social media pages as soon as it's scheduled, so you can have a little bit of a heads up. I wish I could schedule all of these very organized well in advance, but as things change, unfortunately, I've got to adapt with them. Gay asks, so will the peak of this occur Wednesday or Thursday? As far as the rain goes, it's going to be both Wednesday and Thursday. As far as the wind goes, the peak winds, whatever they are going to be, it's going to be more like Wednesday evening into Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. As far as the storm surge, that's going to be kind of during the day, Wednesday, kind of peaking probably early afternoon tomorrow, or what's today? Tuesday. Well, yeah, tomorrow afternoon. I'm losing track of what day it is. So yeah, it depends on what kind of hazard you're talking about. Rain, it's going to be kind of both Wednesday and Thursday. Surge will be Wednesday afternoon. Wind, whatever wind there is, will be kind of late Wednesday afternoon into Wednesday night. Kim asked about, is it going to be flooding like Harvey in Orange County? I think I already answered that question, so you must have put it in there twice. But no, we're not expecting this to be like Harvey. Irene wants to know if the worst rain chances in Lake Charles are tomorrow morning or tomorrow night. They're going to be kind of both. We're going to be looking at pretty high rain chances in the morning, but I think of the two, tomorrow evening into tomorrow night will probably be higher. So yeah, the higher rain chances will be later in the day. Amber asks, can I go over wind speeds? There aren't really going to be many. At the most, we'll be looking at some 40-mile-an-hour gusts right along the coast, but we're not expecting dangerous sustained winds anywhere inland. It'll be breezy, certainly. 20, 25 miles an hour is not out of the realm of possibility. Across the entire area, that's going to be tomorrow into tomorrow night, but we're not expecting dangerous winds. All right, I realize that I see there's a whole bunch of other questions. Unfortunately, I have to run away because I just got notified that I've got to do a coordination call for the rainfall totals here with our surrounding offices in just a couple of minutes, so I'm going to have to jump off here. If you have a question that I missed, I see a whole bunch of them here. Feel free to send me a direct message in Facebook, and I'll answer it just as soon as I can. If you're watching us on X, same thing, send us a message on X and I'll get back to you just as soon as I can. You can also email me directly. My email's on your screen there. It's been up there, donald.jones@noaa.gov, and I can answer your question that way. You can also give us a call. Our phone number also on the screen there, area code 337-477 5285, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. I just got to go coordinate the, we got to basically go determine exactly how much rain we're going to say is going to fall and where, and make sure it lines up well with our surrounding offices. So yeah, I apologize for kind of leaving a few of you hanging here. I'll try to answer your questions next time as I'm able. Everyone have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay safe, stay aware of this situation in case there is some kind of changes, and we'll provide another update just as soon as we can. Talk to you again soon.